kept my mouth shut for 25 years.
I don't know what you're expecting. Now that you're back.
I'm expecting adequate compensation.
Tulsa.
What's Tulsa?
I want you to go there. The horse race, the springboard mile. There's nobody doing nothing. You can do whatever you want.
Not exactly the welcome I was expecting.
Hard to believe with Tulsa King, this is the first time you're playing a mob boss. How does that happen in this long, illustrious career
I
of yours?
know, it's taken a while. It's typecasting too. It's finally come to fruition because I've been wanting to do it since saw The Godfather, or even before The Godfather. So it feels good. And what makes it unique for me is that it's a different take on this particular genre. He's not walking around with the typical intimidating look, the gestures, the gangster gestures. So it turned out real good, and it has a sarcastic little humor to it. It isn't just really dry.
Dwight Manfredi is a character we haven't seen you play before.
Right.
Completely fresh and new, and I think fans are going to really get obsessed with him. How did you get hooked? What first hooked you about him?
It's hard to find anything that's different nowadays, but everything is derivative. And they took a little of this in and mixed it with that. They took a fellow who's a classic gangster, and they gave him kind of a reason to be an underdog. He's in jail for 25 years for something he didn't really do, and now he's supposed to be rewarded for keeping his mouth shut, and they betray him and send him out west, which is basically, you're banished, you're done. And he proceeds to build a whole new life with the strangest group of characters you've ever seen. And therein lies the message about adaptation and how you have to be ready for what life throws at you and try to turn it around to something positive.
Did you find yourself rooting for him? I think fans are really going to root for Dwight.
Yeah, well, that was the big thing, because in the original concept, he's pretty tough. I mean, he just walk up and hit you in the head with a bottle. I said, this is not right. No. I think he walks up and he makes you lower your guard because he's so charming and nice shoes. What'd you say? How you doing, pal? That sort of thing. He's an organizer, and his name is Dwight. And there is not an Italian in the world named Dwight. Why is he named Dwight? Because he's named after Eisenhower, General Eisenhower. A 5-star general, an organizer, a leader, not a thug. So it tends to come home to roost and make sense.
First TV show, Mr. Stallone, had you been watching what was going on in TV and thinking, I want to be part of this?
Well, the industry has changed. And I mean, COVID certainly accelerated the process. But they've spent so much money on streaming shows now, even some more than features, that they finally have lured the best of the best talent, everyone. I mean, if you want to do your dream projects, it's going to happen more on streaming than it will happen on features. Because features, I was just speaking with a producer the other day. He goes, would you rather do a streaming series or a feature? I said, streaming series. Unless you're doing some bombastic tentpole movie, a Marvel extravaganza, you're better off in streaming, I think.
Mr. Stallone, did you relate to Dwight's reinvention of himself? When you think about your own career and how many times you've probably had to do that?
This is not, I didn't have to dig too deep for this. Just like, there's a few films I've done that have been pretty biographical. This has a lot of aspects to it. And Rocky Balboa was very biographical. And when that happens, there's some emotional scenes in here that I think is going to surprise some people. And again, I'm drawing from situations that I've lived through, that I can take that and make it authentic. So yeah, I can relate to this character on a very personal level.
How's your approach to your craft changed over the last few decades?
I look at it as you would look at a machine gun, okay? When you're young, you have unlimited ammunition. You're spraying it everywhere. You're just mowing everything down. Then, at my age, you look over and you got 9 bullets left. So you pick your targets very carefully. You're not as haphazard. You're not as Like when I look at some of the films I've done, I go, why did I do this film? You know, because back then you think, oh, you're invincible, everything's going to work, no problem. Someone will come to the rescue, producer, director, whatever, and that's not true. You end up taking the blame. So now I look at it as, this will be my last movie. I take it, pretend, but not so much, but quite seriously, this could be your last go-around. So you better nail it as hard as you can. And I tell other actors that. I say, you're young, and you're still foolish, and you deserve to be, but I'm telling you right now, you gotta pretend that if this was the last scene you were ever gonna perform, is this the way you would do it? Are you happy with this? I doubt it. And then they dig down and they find something. And I said, I wish someone had told me that, you know, when I was 29.
As someone who grew up on your movies, what's been cool for me as a fan is just to see how you've changed and morphed. The things I liked in the 80s versus the things I like that you do now.
Thank you.
Your approach to your own work. How have you changed as an actor?
There's a lot more gravitas, there's no question. I look back and it's almost like a bodybuilder. You may be at 19, 20, 25, you have this really good body, but your man muscles don't come around until you're like 35, 38. That's when you really have hit your peak as a bodybuilder. Well, quite often as an actor, everyone matures at a different rate, but you'll find actors like Anthony Hopkins, they just keep getting better and better and better, and they learn nuance. Whereas this guy over there, when in doubt, shout, they'll just overdoing it, the younger actor, and this other guy's just sitting there and just a gesture. And he just stole the whole scene. And that comes with experience and confidence and knowing how to breathe, play in silence. That's not easy. When the camera's rolling, everyone feels like they have to do something. Like, that kind of thing. And you look at the pros, and it all started with Brando. When he could just sit there and look at his finger, you go, God damn. And it looks easy, but it's not. It's not. It's not.
You write so much of your own work as well. What do you look for when someone comes to you with a project? What are you looking for? What's the ingredient that's going to make you say, I want to play this guy?
Relatability. It's always fascinating to think, oh yeah, I like to play a serial killer, this or that. But then again, that's the kind of character that no one's going to relate to, and you go, do I really want to spend a year of my life doing something just for myself? You have a choice. People have a certain expectation from you. Or do you want to be some iconoclastic, delinquent, renegade actor? No, I'm going to play an earthworm, and I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm doing that. No, I'm here to try to relate to as many people as possible. So I try to touch on issues that are identifiable. Difficult with the family, isolation, loneliness, adulation, just things. That's what made Rocky work. Not because he's a fighter. It was the nuances of his private life that was identifiable.
Mr. Stallone, the story of Rocky, legendary, how you wouldn't sell it. You didn't want to give up the role. But I'm more interested in 2006 when you come back as Rocky Balboa after 16 years.
The comeback is the hardest thing. I would say Rocky Balboa is by far the most precious film I've ever done because nobody wanted to do it. I was done. I mean, literally told by studios, Rocky's over, you're over. And I was at my lowest depths back then. Even the producer turned his back on me, basically said, Winkler goes, over my dead body. I'm going, why such hatred? I don't get it. And by a miracle, I'm in a bar, New Year's Eve, in Mexico, and across the room is a guy named Joe Roth, who's the producer. How you doing? I'm not so good, this and that. Written anything? I got something, want to check it out? So I sent it to him. He calls me the next day, goes, my wife read it and cried. I went, yes, we're in. If the wife cries, you're in. And he saved my career, Joe Roth, and that was the beginning of a resurgence.
Before I let you go, do you still feel like you have something to prove?
Yeah. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Yes, I think you always have something to prove. You think you have nothing left to prove. that's just words. In your little insecure brain, there's always that notion that, can you still do it? Do you still have it? If you don't do it, are you going to be forgotten? You know, all these little idiosyncratic, what did you say, fearful things that you have percolating in your brain keep you moving on. The fear of failure. I'm going to keep going. I know I still got something left in me. You know, like a fighter until he finally gets knocked cold. And I haven't been knocked cold yet. Close. Been staggered a few times. But yeah, I'll keep going on and on and on until my wife goes, "You're done. You're done." And then I'll pull the plug.
Ever heard of Black McAdam? It's a motorcycle gang.
You're overplaying your hand.
When I play my hand, you won't see it coming.
Any flammable liquids or firearms?
In the box? Nah.